one thing I really love when listening to your shows, which is really clear about you, Chris, is this practice of gratitude. You end every episode with things you're grateful of. I know you've spoken about, when you wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night, you talk about the three things you're grateful for. When did the practice of gratitude begin for you, and what difference has it made to your life?
It started during COVID, actually, and it's made the biggest difference in my life. And when you start to reframe things where you start to be thankful for what you have, rather than being angry or upset about what you don't have, your entire world starts to change. So that was a really big thing for me. And when I started bringing it, I was doing it on my own, just waking up every day, saying out loud three things I was grateful for, and then doing it before I was going to sleep. And if you think back, and I hate to think back to like prime COVID time, but travel with me for a moment to March, April, May, June of 2020. Like things were looking pretty bleak at that time. We had like this ship, little sliver of light at the end of the tunnel where we're like, everything will be back to normal by this holiday, and that didn't happen. Everything will be back to normal by this holiday, and then that didn't happen. And there were just a lot of things going on in the world, and a lot of people were really affected by it. And a lot of people lost loved ones as a result. And I just wanted to, with all that negativity that was going on in the world, I just wanted to be able to look at some positivity. And that was a thing that changed my life so much. And there was a quote that really hammered it home for me. I'm actually going to find it because I want to make sure I say it right, because it's such a powerful quote. It's, I think I found it. Okay, here it is. No amount of regret changes the past. No amount of anxiety changes the future, but any amount of gratitude changes the present. And that quote there changed my entire perception of it. And the reason I ask it at the end of every episode is, number one, I think I love the idea of podcasters that I listen to that have a signature question at the end. Like I listen to Lewis Howes in the School of Greatness, and he always asks, like, what's your definition of greatness? And he has another great question at the end of his podcast. I listen to Modern Wisdom, and he has a question at the end. I listen to his question is actually really interesting. He has people. Oh no, it's Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, who's actually out on your side of the pond. He
Mm.
will have one guest ask a question of the next guest, not knowing who they are. And I just love that idea. And it keeps the listener engaged till the very end. But with the
Mm.
gratitude question, I love that it helps people to kind of reframe their own life. Oh my gosh, if that person who is so successful in their life and their career can be grateful for the same things that I have in my life, well, maybe I should start thinking like that too. Wow, they're grateful for a roof over their head. They're grateful for their health. Wow, today really sucked, but I've got those things in my life. I'm thankful for them too.
Mm. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I always find it really hard going back to the COVID times, but as time goes on, it's getting easier for me. I mean, funnily enough, as the full circle of life we're in now, I've interviewed from a wrestling side both Matt Cardona and Mike Chioda about April 15th, 2020, because when WWE was
Yeah.
doing its big swathe of cuts, I lost my job on the same day and I was made redundant, and I was terrified because I'd only been in this PR role for about 8 months. It had been a big step change for my family for me to take that role on, and it just ended overnight. And I was going into COVID anyway with anxiety, with depression. That news hit, and that just completely dipped me over into such a dark place. And there was a period where I couldn't see the good. I mean, I had an 18-month-old baby at home, Chris, and technically we were having a beautiful heat wave, which is rare in the UK. Going to be honest,
Yeah. The
we're recording
sun was
this.
shining and
Yeah,
incredible.
we're recording this right now. You're in sunny LA. I'm in my log cabin here with a storm blowing outside. So that's standard. But no, I mean I just couldn't see the good for a period.
Yeah.
I couldn't see beyond what was going on. I think the enormity of the pandemic was so extreme that all I could do was focus on my little bubble for a bit. And it took me a while to be able to reframe that. And it was really interesting having that conversation with those two gentlemen, because you've got one who's this professional wrestler at the height of his career, full of confidence, who was like, oh, well, that's fine. I've got a pool. I'm going to do well out of this. Not a problem.
Yeah.
And then I interviewed this other gentleman who was at the time was in his mid 50s, had been with the same company for 30 years, who was, broken by the news. Absolutely, what am I going to do? I'm cast aside. And it was really interesting to get those two perspectives, because at the time I couldn't really see a way out. Obviously, I fast forward 4 years on, I now seem to have this podcast, a wrestling podcast, my own company. It's all kind of worked out as it's supposed to do. But it can be in those moments where, if you're not, I guess, grounding it in the gratitude and grounding it in the small pockets of what's good in that day, that you can just get lost. Because when you're talking about success, everyone is more successful than you, aren't they? If you look at the outside world, I mean, there you are in LA with your lovely full head of hair, which hasn't hit me at the age of 40, and all your millions of subscribers. But actually, that's not success, is it? That's just window dressing. That's not what life's all about at the end of the day.
Well, for me, I've always defined success as being excited for what you're going to do at the start of that day, and then being proud of what you've done at the end of that day. And this isn't just work. This is like everything, like life as a whole. That's always been my definition of success. And then it's wake up and do it again tomorrow. And in saying, like, what are the three things you're grateful for? Or, when things are not going well, to just look for gratitude. I'm not saying I'm saying see the situation for what it is, but don't see it for worse than what it is. And I think that that's a really important thing. Like, yeah, things are tough right now, but no, this too shall pass. And I think that that's such an important thing too, that I've remembered as well. Like, if things are going great, this too shall pass. And if things are going not so great, this too shall pass. And I think that that's an important thing to remember.
And if you're hitting me with prophetic quotes, I'll go right back at you with a bit of Dolly P. And you can't have the rainbow without the rain.